Testing, testing. Hello. Hello. Can anybody hear me? Just got this set up and I want to see if this is working. Um, One moment. Let me see here. I'm just pulling up the YouTube stream on my browser just to see if I can actually see myself. Oh, and it looks like it's live. Good. Hello, hello. I'll wait a couple more minutes for some people to come on in. Say hello in the chat so I know you're here. If you have any questions, let me know. The most important thing about the city release, if you're traveling to Washington, D.C., make sure that you collect all the sends possible before you actually start traveling. So that's the initial tip. A lot of people, once they see that you have the ability to start traveling to the new city, they go ahead and start hopping on public transportation, which, by the way, you can do right now. You can head to Washington, D.C., but make sure that you collect your sends beforehand because there will not be sends in that city until several minutes after the city is released. So you're going to want to make sure you stock up on sends. Hello, Antho93 793. Thank you for joining. A couple more minutes here before we get started. So as I said, let's just pull up. Here we go. We can already see the map of Washington, D.C. And if anyone is not familiar exactly where Washington, D.C. is, we're zooming out here. It's in the United States, of course. And my block explorer is currently in Manhattan. So you can see that just southwest of there is Washington, D.C. We've got the uh, train and airplane terminals just to the west of the city itself. So if you take the public transportation, that's where you're going to end up. Um, if you take a plane, you're going to disembark from the airport and send yourself here to the train terminal. And from the train terminal, you're going to send yourself only a couple minute train ride to this uh, train terminal, which is within the city. So that's something that's really important that also confuses a number of people. They think that once they just hop off the flight, they'll start wandering in this direction, and that's just not true. You're going to have to take another train ride from the airport into the city itself. Hello to everyone who's joining. I am YK2012, founder of the Upland Guide, and I'm here to teach you everything that you need to know about Upland, tips, tricks, strategies, and today we're less than 24 hours away from the release of Washington, D.C. in the Upland Metaverse, and I thought I'd jump on here in YouTube Live and go over a number of really important things. Upland released uh, this announcement, which is quite long and a little bit confusing, if you ask me. So I'm going to cover a lot of what's written here and give you guys some pointers along the way as well to make sure that you guys are able to succeed the best you can in the new city release, which is going to be happening on Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Let me just pull up my notes here so we can get started. Again, the first thing, make sure that before you travel to Washington, D.C., that you do make sure that you collect all of your sends. So how do you know how many sends you actually have? You can click on your block explorer and click on the airplane button where you see the sends, and you can see how many sends you currently have. So I have 9 right now, and before I start traveling, I'm going to want to collect a few more. Make sure I get up to 11. It's possible that you actually don't end up at 11, and you might max out at 9 or 10, but that should replenish within 24 hours of the time since you uh, deep, used up all of your sends and have less than 3. So that will replenish as well. Also take into account that when you do travel, you're going to have to use some sends in order to, for example, I'm in Manhattan, I'm going to want to take an airplane potentially. So I'm going to have to send myself to the airport here. So that's going to use up a send. Again, the white ones are domestic flights. So if you're in the continental United States, you're going to want to use a white terminal, white train terminal. If you're coming from outside of the US, within Upland, of course, you're going to use the yellow terminal. If you still want to buy some sends, you can do that as well. Get UPX, and under extras, you can buy 10 cents for 99 cents. So do not forget to pick up some cents along the way. Let's pull up here. 1 second. Where am I here? Okay. Um, there we go. Now we can see this announcement page. So Washington, D.C. is coming to Upland tomorrow. We can see here the city details, and this is super important as well. A couple of things that I want to explain in detail, because if this is one of your first city releases, some of this stuff is quite important, and you might not fully understand what all of this means or how this could influence your gameplay and what you actually want to accomplish in the new city release. So the first thing that we can see is obviously there's and there's an airport and a train terminal so that you can get there via those means. You can also, I believe, if you have a car on your own and you want to drive there, you can probably do that as well. Just keep in mind that it will take you a lot longer to do that. So don't go and start traveling without doing the calculation of how long it's going to take you if you do want to take your car. In this instance, I would say better be safe than sorry. Spend that extra couple of hundred UPX more in order to actually take the public transportation and make sure that you are not late. You do not want to be late for these city releases because all of the best properties will be minted immediately. So if you're not there in time, ready to go, you're going to miss out. So don't do something silly like taking your car, trying to save a couple of UPX, and realize that you're going to end up being late for the city release. Um, Collection range, so in DC there's going to be between 14 and 20 property collections, and that's once the entire city is released. So let's say on the minimum there's 14 collections. We're not going to see all of those in this first city release, which is coming tomorrow, because only about 50% of the properties are going to be available for minting. The initial launch is 28,000 properties. So if I do that math here, 28,000 divided by 0.45, that means that there's about 60,000 properties in the city once it's going to be released. And also with the 28,000 properties, there's going to be 1,000 less because players were able to buy these passes, which will guarantee them a property as part of this release. So keep that in mind as well. I think, let's see here if we can actually, are there some passes that you can buy now? Let's see, they are all sold out. So if you didn't get a pass, you missed out on that, but they are still properties that will not be able to be minted. Um, Sorry, just trying to toggle here between a number of things. Okay, that's that. Uh, Okay, sorry, I'm back on track now. Total launch neighborhoods, there's 35 in total, and I showed you on the map as well that you can go in and see which ones those are and start looking. A couple of hours before the city release itself, the property lines will actually show up. So if you're starting to do some research as to where you might want to buy some properties, it's great to take a look at Upland and see where the different neighborhoods are, but you're probably going to want to head over to Google and start looking around there, try and get your bearings straight, and start looking at different areas that might interest you in terms of purchasing things. Now, I'll save you the trouble. I don't know Washington, D.C., and I haven't really started looking at where I want to mint properties, but uh, everyone wants to know where the White House is. So the White House is right here downtown, and the National Mall, West Potomac Park, that's also a very famous area within Washington, D.C., and Upland said that this neighborhood is not going to be released. So even though we see it here, you will not be able to mint properties here. As for the White House and other important landmarks within the city, Upland will reserve those, and those will also not be able to be minted because they sell those as landmarks or give them away during contests or other giveaways. So that's that's how much I know about Washington, D.C., that the White House is right here, smack down in downtown, and the National Mall is not going to be open for minting. So we cover the neighborhoods, number of FSA properties. So Upland said that there will be 0 FSA properties in this city release. So that means they're really targeting here the more experienced players. If you're brand new to Upland, that doesn't mean you should not participate. It just means that expect the properties to be more expensive than what you would expect with FSA properties and for new players. And if you are absolutely brand new and this is your very first city release, then make sure to head over to the playlists on my YouTube channel. There's a lot of great videos under a playlist for specifically for new players and specifically for new city releases. So make sure to do some homework before participating, and definitely continue watching here. If you're here already, then that's really good. Um, we can see here the average property prices, minimum property price, and maximum property price. As for minimum property price, they say that it's actually the minimum. I don't really think that that's the case, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later as well to show you exactly why I don't think that's the case. But I think it's going to be a lot less than that. But I could be wrong. They could be right here with 44,000 UPEX minimum price, but I highly doubt that. Um, future expansion, obviously, yes, that's the case. And we're looking here at the treasure hunting tiers. So because the entire city is not completely released, if you're looking to build a treasure hunting web in Washington, D.C., and you're looking at the neighborhoods that have been released right now, and you can kind of see, here, let's pull this back up. Um, okay, so we can see this here. Let's head back over to Washington, D.C., and you look at the geography of the neighborhoods, and maybe you're thinking, okay, if I buy a property over here in Chevy Chase and one over here in Kent and one, let's say, in Kalorama, those are starting to be spaced out, and you can start building a treasure hunting web, and everything's great. But what's going to happen? They're going to release another part of the city. Now, I'm assuming that the city expands in this direction, and then you're going to say, I just had a really great treasure hunting map over here, and now I'm going to have to expand my treasure hunting map to the rest of the city. So because they're only releasing about half of the city now, it should be a lot easier to be treasure hunting in the city, and therefore they are not going to have the treasure hunting be the top treasure hunting tier at this point in time. So they're going to uh, the current treasure hunting tier will be tier 2, but once more of the city gets released, then it will upgrade to a tier 1 treasure hunting city. So if you're starting to build your treasure hunting web, it's really important to keep that into consideration for future releases. Now, if you're wondering when that's going to be, nobody actually knows. As you see here, they announced that this city was going to be released just yesterday, so they give you about 48 hours notice, and that's how it works in Upland with regards to city releases and expansions. They'll let you know about 48 hours ahead of the actual release before you actually know uh, that the release is going to happen. So nobody knows when the expansion of the city is going to occur. There are a number of other cities as well in Upland that they have said that there's going to be additional releases, but we're still waiting on that to happen. So keep that in mind if you're thinking of building a treasure hunting web in this city. Let's just pull up here, and got way too many browsers open. Uh, okay, one moment. Sorry about that. So we're talking about, I covered the treasure hunting tier, the minimum price. I told you that that's going to change. Launchpad properties. So this is something that's really important to understand. When you're traveling to the city, I said that, um, hold on, let me pull up this browser again and make sure I have the game here. Okay. So here I just zoomed into the train terminal, and we can see here that there's only one property here that's minted, and it's been minted by the Upland Bureau, which is actually Upland itself. And we know that Upland sells these train terminals or public transportation terminals as well to the public. And this sale is going to be happening after the city release itself. So right now at each terminal, there's just one property that's minted, and it's minted by Upland. And the historically what they have done is they have not had these launchpad properties. Essentially, you would get here to the train, you would disembark from the train, and then your block explorer would start wandering around in a certain direction. And what that did was that created a lot of congestion right around that train, because if you wanted to mint a property, if you wanted to mint a property here downtown or Judiciary Square or wherever that might be, people would see that maybe after disembarking from this train, their block explorer might be heading northeast, and that's not where they want to go. So they'll try and send themselves back to this train to try and get a different trajectory to head over west. And what they found out was that when you start sending yourself to the train terminals, that there's a maximum amount of times that people can send themselves to a train terminal, um, because the concept here is that just like when you go to a real train, there aren't infinite number of spots at that train terminal for people to take transportation. So that's the concept here. But they found that that was obviously creating a lot of problems where people weren't able to send back here and people were unhappy. So what they did was they defined some properties that were minted by Upland as well. And one of them we can see here, which is just to the northeast of the White House. Um, let's see here. Where is it? Here it is. So they have this one property here, and they have two other ones in different neighborhoods where you can actually send yourself to that property an infinite number of times theoretically, to try and get yourself pointed in the right direction that you want to go. Now, it's also really important, like I said, that before you start traveling, you're going to want to get the maximum of 11 cents. And here, if you let's say you do want to mint something here just north of the White House, you're going to say, hey, this is fantastic. I'm going to send myself to this property on Zay Alleyway, and I'm going to start drifting southwest, and then I'm going to be able to mint my property here, and it's going to be great. First of all, you're going to have a ton of competition because I'm not giving away any secrets here, but a lot of people are going to be doing that. Obviously, minting properties in downtown, very close to the White House, will probably be on the top of everyone's wish list, but clearly not everyone's going to be able to do that. Also take into account the actual price of the properties in this neighborhood, and I'll talk about that in a second. But just to finish here with traveling in the right direction with these Launchpad properties, that this gives you a good opportunity to start heading in the direction that you want based on where you might want to mint some properties. So there's one Launchpad property over there. There's a second one over here in Forest Hill in this area over here. And the third one, here it is. And the third one, I didn't have a chance to figure out exactly where that one is. But if one's downtown and the other one here is in Forest Hill, I'm going to guess that the third one is somewhere here in this area of the city. Now, if we head back over here, if we head back over here and talking about the Launchpad properties, next here we have is the map. So these are the 35 neighborhoods, and they have this picture here as well. But let's talk about the property prices now, because that's also something that's really important. I mentioned with the Launchpad properties, if you're going to start if you want to go southwest and you're just going to see that every time you send yourself to this property, you're heading northeast, you're going to run out of sends. So number one, that's important to make sure you start traveling with 11 so you can take your chance at sending yourself here and trying to get yourself in the right direction while trying to manage how many sends that you still have, because after trying to mint a property here, you might want to send yourself to a different area of the map to try and mint some properties there. And it takes about 5 to 10 minutes until Upland will start putting the paper airplanes in Washington, D.C. for people to start picking them up and collecting them. So you're really going to have to last about 5 to 10 minutes without any sends, and that's why some people do opt to purchasing additional sends here for 99 cents. If you do, you will be able to go over the 11 sends that you're able to hold. I don't recommend doing this while the city is releasing, because obviously that takes time for you to do this and you might miss out on minting those properties that you might want to mint. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to set yourself up in the right direction uh, from these Launchpad properties. Now, when we're talking about the prices, we can actually figure out exactly how much properties will cost in this downtown neighborhood. Um, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. I have this also a number of videos on this on my YouTube channel as well. But you can see here the monthly earnings of 1,130 UPIX. Now, what you're going to want to do, uh, I don't have my calculator up here, but I've pulled this up to do this calculation. In order to calculate how much this property uh, actually costs from a min price perspective, first of all, it's super important to realize that after Upland introduced these gamified earnings, and your earnings can fluctuate from season to season, that you might click on this property. If you're following along with me, you might see a different number here. That is okay. That's correct that you could see a different number here. So don't be concerned and think that the game is broken. It is quite a bit confusing, actually. Um, so I'm going to explain this right now. So whatever number you have, it could be different. Um, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to head over into your earnings, and you can see here at the top it says your UPEX earnings multiplier is currently at 3 for the blossom season, resulting in an earnings percentage of 14.7. So this is really important to know before you start calculating what these mint prices are, because this will factor in right now, as you see in this calculation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the monthly earnings, and I'm going to 1,130, and I'm going to divide that by 75 up squared, which is the property size. That's not what I'm going to do. Sorry. I'm going to do 1,130, and I'm going to multiply that by 12 months in a year. So that's a total earnings of 13,560 UPIX per year. and I'm going to divide that by the 14.7% yield and multiply that by 100%, and that's going to give me 92,245 UPIX. So that is the original mint price of that property. And again, I used 14.7% because that's my earnings for this season, which I just showed you. Yours is different, so you're not going to, if yours is different, you're not going to want to use that 14.7. You're going to want to use that number that you have. So this is a mint price of 92,000 OPEX. And what you're going to do then is going to divide that by the size of this property. So that's property size of 75. When I do that calculation, I'm going to get 1,230 UPEX. So that means that for every one up squared, in this neighborhood of downtown, I'm going to be paying 1,230 UPIX. So let's say there's a property that's going to be 50 up squared. So how much is that going to cost? I'm going to take the 1,230 and I'm going to multiply that by 50, and that's going to be a price of 61,000, just about 500 UPIX. So that's how you can figure out right now how much these properties are going to cost in the downtown neighborhood. Now, every neighborhood has a different neighborhood value. So that 1,230 UPIX per up squared is the neighborhood value for downtown. If we look at Foggy Bottom, I would need to see a property here and know the actual earnings or see something about that to be able to calculate uh, the property prices there. So when we look back here at the city details, and we're looking at the average property price, minimum property price, and maximum property price, when I'm looking at the 44,000 minimum property price, and I told you that I really don't think that that is actually true, and I figured that out. I'm not just guessing here, but I checked out this other Launchpad property, which is here in Forest Hills. And I'm not going to go through the math again, but you can see here that this one, property size of 79, which was very similar to the property size that we just saw in downtown. But here the monthly earnings are less than half of that. So if we were looking at 1,230 UPX per up squared in downtown, here we're looking at around less than half of that. So probably about 500 or so UPX per up squared. Now, if I take that 500 UPX per up squared, and let's say we have a property which is a little bit smaller than that, let's say that's also 50 UPX, sorry, 50 up squared. We're going to take the 500 times 50, and we're looking at 25,000 UPX. So again, I'm not sure if this 79 property size is, an average size in this neighborhood, but if you do have a 50 up squared property in this neighborhood, then it's going to be less than this 44,000 UPIX. So that's why I'm assuming that there are going to be properties that are going to be cheaper than that. In lots of other cities, there are, if you look at a city like Manhattan, there are a lot of much smaller properties. In Washington, D.C., I'm not really sure how big these properties are, but once you understand the concept of the neighborhood value, you can appreciate that even though the neighborhood value might be smaller than other cities, if you have a very large property, it can still be quite a large price for that. So um, I would recommend, if you're hemming and hawing and not really sure if you do want to go to the city release because you might not have enough UPIX, I would take a chance. I would travel. Worst case scenario, you spent a couple of thousand UPIX maybe on traveling there and back, But if you think you might want to mint something, you may still have an opportunity to do so. So don't let this 44,000 UPX really scare you away. And there's another trick, which I have in another video. Uh, one second here. Um, so there's another trick that you're saying, you're probably thinking, okay, so I can go and check out the neighborhood prices of the three neighborhoods where these Launchpad properties are, but what about Foggy Bottom, or any one of these other areas? So a couple of hours before the city actually gets released, we will start to see the property lines, not just the individual properties that you see here, but all of the properties. So a couple of hours before, you can hop into the game and actually see the actual size of the properties. You can go ahead and check out some street views if you want, if you're interested in minting a specific property, and you can start looking around and getting a good idea of on the map itself. And once that happens, you're actually able to calculate the mint price just similar to how I showed you, of these other neighborhoods. What you're going to need to do uh, is, sorry, so here we can see here that let's say I'm in the lower east side. So what I can do is I will be able to click on my block explorer in this middle button here. Uh, it says there are no properties available to purchase in this current map view. But what you will be able to see once you head over to Washington, D.C., or if there was a property here that is available to mint, you would see a number of properties here. Um, Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and find uh, that page on my website, because I do want to pull that up for you guys to see. So just bear with me really quickly. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments here in, in the comments. One second while I find this page. Um, Okay, this is not working for me under this pressure, but basically I seem to have lost my mouse here somehow, which is definitely not good during a live stream. So I can't see my mouse right now. Uh, well, sorry about these technical difficulties. Um, I'm going to start clicking around here until I find something that I actually want to do, so that's not good. Um, so as I mentioned, once you click on that button, you will be able to see the other properties and the price and the earnings. And you will be able to do this exact same calculation that I did to calculate what the neighborhood value of those properties are. So ahead of the actual release, you can get a good head start in understanding and calculating exactly how much some of these properties are that you might want to mint, and and then you will be able to act accordingly. If you see that a specific neighborhood or a property that you really, really, really want to buy into, but you don't have enough UPX, then you will be able to start stocking up and purchasing more UPX, or doing what you need to do in order to get more UPX quickly. And that can really help you to understand your strategy. As we can see, the neighborhood of downtown, if you want to mint something very close to the White House, then it's going to be super expensive. Um, and if you don't have a ton of UPX, you're going to want to start looking for neighborhoods that are more affordable. So there's a wide range of different property prices based on also the real world. Obviously, it makes sense that if you want to live right next to the White House, it's going to be a lot more expensive, as opposed to if you wanted to live further out in the city. So that's really what that's all about. Um, so that's covering the Launchpad properties. Heading over to the map here, we kind of talked about that. terminal sales and travel routes. So again, before you start traveling to Washington, D.C., make sure that you pick up the maximum number of sends, and you don't want to be late for that as well. I had said, I still don't have my mouse here. Okay. Oh, I saw my mouse there for a second. Um, to the west of the city, you have your train terminal and airplane terminals. So if you're flying in or taking the train and you end up there, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to send yourself to that other train terminal, which is just north of the airplane terminals, and you're going to take a couple-minute train ride into the city. And from there, you will be able to start wandering around from that train terminal and sending yourself to those Launchpad properties. If you just got off the airplane and you're trying to send yourself to these Launchpad properties, you're not going to be able to do it because you're not in the city yet. Um, we have here the terminal sales. The registration opens on Monday, April 29th, and the sale starts on the 30th. You can see here the price of these terminals. Domestic terminal, airplane terminal is $1,280. International terminal, $1,500. Train terminal is $475 each. And one of the benefits of owning a public transportation terminal is that you share in the UPEX collected. So even though the sale of this is going to be after all of the after people have already started traveling into the city and out of it, they say here that all UPEX proceeds generated from travel through the DC terminals will be distributed evenly amongst the terminal owners, allowing them to share in the benefits of the UPEX collected during the city's launch. So if you do own a terminal anywhere in Upland, at the end of the month, they will calculate how many people had purchased tickets from that specific terminal, and they will distribute a percentage of of those fees to all of the terminal holders in that terminal. So that's one of the benefits of owning one of these terminals. Here's a table of traveling. So you can actually drive your own car, I think, there if you wanted to. But again, make note that if you're trying to save a couple hundred UPEX just by driving, that you're going to get there well before the city release. You don't want to miscalculate and not um, not get there in time. Stars and Stripes scavenger hunt. This is something brand new that they're introducing here, and it is a little bit confusing. I'm going to get back to that in a moment. I'm going to go through the rest of these details a little bit faster. Block Explorer special sale. I think it's going on right now still. I can't find my mouse, so I can't check that out. But here you can get one of these block explorers if you purchase one of these bundles for $30, where you will also get 30,000 UPEX. So if you're looking to get some UPEX ahead of the city release, this is potentially a good opportunity in order to do that, where you buy the UPEX and you are also able to get one of these block explorers. So registration, you already had to register, but it's possible that you might still be able to purchase one. So take a look at the countdown there. Washington, D.C. passes. Again, these were all sold out. This is what they look like. Um, this is a little tricky. I've seen a lot of people who have purchased these passes and not really sure what they're buying. So here you're buying the opportunity to mint a specific property in Upland after the release itself. So there are some properties of those 28,000 properties, there's going to be 1,000 properties that are going to be locked that you will not be able to mint. 15% of those will be in collection neighborhoods or in collections themselves. They could be collection streets, and essentially it reserves that property for you. So if that property costs 100,000 UPEX and you bought this pass for $5, that does not mean that you get that property for free. It just means that you have the opportunity to mint that property. If you say, well, 100,000 UPEX, I don't have that, and I don't want to buy more UPEX in order to mint that, then essentially um, it's just going to be, I don't know if wasted is the right term, but after a certain amount of time, that property is going to be unlocked and anybody will be able to mint that. So it's reserved for you for a specific amount of time. And here we see here that the minting deadline is Monday, May 6th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. After this deadline, any property that remains unminted will be released for the public minting at an unspecified time and date. So if you do have, uh, you will get an email after, what does it say here? The snapshot will be taken at May 2nd at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So if you are a holder of one of these passes at May 2nd at 9 a.m., you will receive an email or confirmation that of the address which is being reserved for you, and then you have up until uh, May 6th at 9 a.m. in order to find a way to mint that property if you so choose. If you don't, then it's going to be open to other people. Now, once the snapshot is taken, this pass is uh, no longer valuable from the perspective that it's tied to the property. So you can go ahead and mint the property and then you can trade or sell this pass. That does not mean that the person, the new owner of the pass, will be able to mint that property. So that's a little bit confusing. I've seen some people kind of be confused with these passes. So that's talking about the passes. Go-karts and map assets. So there's going to be a map asset and go-kart sale, which will be for US dollars. And this is going to be exclusively for people who had purchased um, specifically for people who had purchased one of these block explorers, which also came with the UpX bundle. So there, so I'm not, for example, I'm someone who isn't looking to buy any UpX right now because I feel like I have enough for what I want to do in in this release. But but that would mean that I'm not going to be able to get one of these, purchase one of these map assets or carts that are going to be sold in the future. So I would have to think, well, either I might want to go ahead and buy one of these bundles so that I do have the opportunity to get one of these carts if I want one on the initial market, or I'm probably going to have to bite the bullet and see if I can get one of these things on the secondary market, but chances are they will be marked up because of the exclusive sale. So that's another interesting element for people who are interested about potentially buying one of these block explorers and stocking up on some UpX before the city release. Now let's get back here to the Stars and Stripes scavenger hunt because this one is the very first time that Upland is doing it and it is a little bit confusing. I actually had a conversation with Squall Muzza, I think that's his name, one of the community directors in Upland, and I had some questions that I asked him this morning because some of the information was not entirely clear, and he was able to clarify some of this information for me. So essentially what's going to happen here with these scavenger hunts, there are going to be some of these map assets of flags, stars, and starlets hidden on properties during the city release. There are three different types, the flag, stars, and starlets, and there are two different sizes. There's going to be big ones and there are going to be small ones. Let's see, how do they actually call it here? So they call them large and small. So there's going to be large flags, large stars, and large starlets, and small ones. So after you mint these properties, you will be able to see if your property has one of these tied to it. These are just temporary, which means that they're going to be disappearing at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So the city releases at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 2 hours later, 11 a.m. All of these are going to disappear. So after you mint the property, you're going to want to check to see if you do have one of these things that are on your property. That means you won't be able to sell these map assets as map assets because they're temporary, but it also says here that you will not be able to Please note these assets will be cleared from all properties at 11 a.m. Properties minted with these assets cannot be traded or sold until after the assets are removed. So only at 11 you will be able to trade or sell that property. Um, and if you have these properties, you will be able to temporarily put them into collections. So here we can see there are different types of collections: exclusive, rare, and ultra rare. Just like other property collections, you get a one-time award, and you also get the yield boost, but this is only temporary because they say here on April 25th, the day after the, okay, so on April 25th, the day after the launch, um, the special temporary collections will be available in game, allowing you to place the properties in them for added benefits, which I just talked about. Exclusive, rare, and ultra rare. They will be open for 30 days. After this period, they will be retired from Upland. So make sure to take full advantage of them while they last. Now, I asked him to clarify what this means. They will be retired from Upland. This means that you will no longer get the yield boost, and you will no longer have that collection at all. So this is only for these 30-day period. Um, so even if you create the collection immediately and you hold all those properties, even after the 30 days, you will no longer receive any additional benefits from that after that 30-day period. They're going to take away the collections, take away the yield boost, and that's going to be that. The one-time award, obviously, you're going to get that. That's yours to keep once you get it. Here, you can also see that the different requirements, for example, here for the exclusive, it says 3 properties with any flag, 3 properties with any star, 3 properties with any starlet. This does not mean that you need 9 properties to fill the collection. It means you either need 3 properties with any flag, or 3 properties with any star, or 3 properties with any starlet. So these collections, you only need 3 properties in order to fill that collection. This is the same thing with the rare and the ultra rare ones here, where the rare, you can see that uh, you need 3 properties with a large flag or 3 properties with a large star, and so on and so forth. The ultra rare is for small flag, star, and starlet. The other thing which is a little bit confusing to my understanding is that actually gauging the size of large and small, if you do see that you have a flag or a star or starlets on your property, you're going to have to look around at some of these other properties to find other ones and find the other sizes, because if you're just looking at a star, like for what we see right here, I don't know if this is a large one or a small one. I don't know how it looks on the actual property. So you're going to have to somehow figure out if it is a large one or a small one. And again, this is for the very first 2 hours. After the first 2 hours, these map assets, you're not going to be able to see them uh, at all on the properties. And then it's going to be even more confusing, I think, to figure out which properties actually are part of this. So if I had minted a property which has a flag, and now I want to go ahead and purchase 2 other flags, how am I going to know which properties I'm going to need to buy in order to fill that collection? I'm not really sure. It's a little bit confusing. So I don't really know how this is going to work out. I think this is a really good idea in terms of the execution. I don't know how it's going to play out, but I can guarantee that there are going to be people who are going to be confused and potentially upset. So I hope I clarified this to the best of my abilities. I had asked Squall Muzza a couple of questions, and he confirmed some of these things that I just explained now. But obviously, there are people that are not watching this that are going to be confused as well. So this is an interesting new thing here. They say this mechanic is a trial run for city openings. Based on player feedback, we may adjust or change them in the future. So it's cool to see that they're trying to do new things to make these city releases a little bit more exciting, more engaging. Recently, they introduced these passes as well, which was a nice addition. So they're trying out new things, which is really good to see. And hopefully they will get some valuable feedback about how this plays out, and how they might want to do this a little bit better in the future, in my opinion. They're going to have to iron out some of these details, uh, but it's promising, and I like the fact that they are trying some new things here. Um, Hold on, I seem to have lost a. This is not good that I still have these technical details with technical difficulties um, with my mouse. I still can't see my mouse. And to be honest, my browser also just uh, closed on me. So I don't know what's going here in terms of people having questions. I'm trying to pull this up as we speak, but it's a little bit difficult because I can't. I'm basically blind here with my mouse. Okay, I'm going to try and, okay, now it looks like I'm pulling up 1 minute, 1 minute here. I seem to have pulled up this YouTube and now I'm just trying to get in here. Okay, if anyone has any questions, I can see the questions here in, if anyone has any questions, I can see these questions here in YouTube. So thank you for everyone who has joined. Um, Hold on here. Um, okay, so I think I've wrapped things up here. If you have any other questions, just to recap what I've talked about, I covered this here. Basically covered the entire details of this announcement, the city details. You can start traveling to Washington, D.C. now. Make sure that you pick up on uh, the maximum number of cents before you start traveling. You're going to want to get there early. Uh, be prepared. Do some research on YouTube, or sorry, do some research on Google if you're looking for neighborhoods or properties to purchase. Utilizing these Launchpad properties, I talked about that in detail, how to actually do this earlier in this video. And the minimum price here, do not be scared by this. I also explained why I believe that this is not true, that there are going to be properties that are cheaper than 44,000 UPIX. Again, there are 0 FSA properties in the city release. So that doesn't mean that it's not available for new players. It just means that if you don't have a lot of UPIX, chances are it's going to be difficult for you to mint something, but it all depends on how much UPIX you really have. The minimum price is probably going to be a lot less than that, but there's also a way for you to calculate that before the actual city release itself. Make sure you head into my YouTube channel. Under playlists. You can see under playlist, you can see a number of playlists for new players as well as specifically for this Washington, D.C. release. And there are a number of videos there that will help you as well to understand how to do some of these calculations that I showed earlier and how to calculate these mint prices, how to utilize the Launchpad properties. And I think with that, if there are no other questions, then I'm going to wish everyone good luck with this city release. And um, and also that the last thing that I didn't mention is the collection reveal is going to be 1 week after the initial city release, and I've also got information on that as well. So if you're looking to purchase collection properties, we don't know where they are during the first week, and then there's going to be the release of those as well. So I want to wish everyone good luck in Washington, D.C. If you have any other questions, leave a comment here, find me on my social medias, uh, ask me, and I'm sure that I will be able to help direct you to the information, which is most likely on my website somewhere or in a different YouTube video. So thank you again